on. Boom. What up, ladies and gentlemen? Want passive income? Here's how to buy profitable websites. Let's get this one started. Here we go.
Shut up and sit down.
Look, a business can give you everything you want in life. Prestige, wealth, freedom. It can also take everything away from you. This show is for those who are willing to take that risk. These are the real life stories of entrepreneurs. But before we start, I have one small favor to ask. Please leave a comment. It can be advice, critiques, tips, feedback, or share this with someone because your engagement is the most valuable and most powerful form of social currency. So thank you, and welcome to another episode of Business Bros. Business Bros, from zoology to zeroing in on online assets. Today's guest has mastered the art of flipping websites for profit, teaching thousands how to create income and freedom through digital real estate. He's the co-founder of Australia's top digital investing education company. So please welcome to the show, Raad. Party on, Matt. Let's do this.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on, Hernan. It's awesome to be here.
Let's get into this. Flipping websites. I've heard of flipping houses. I've flipped houses in the past. How are you flipping websites? Walk me through this. How'd you get into this space, and what the heck is flipping a website?
Where do we start? It's exactly the same kind of concept. We're looking to buy, real estate flippers looking to buy the worst house in the best street. We're trying to do the same thing with websites. We're finding online businesses are a bit run down, a bit neglected. Give them a coat of paint, bit of a makeover, renovate them. We get the cash flows up. And basically we can either flip them or hold for cash flows. A lot of people like to flip them because you can make good money doing that. But in actual fact, the real way to generate the big wealth is to really grow them significantly and hold for the big cash flows and then sell out to the big guys later on. We're seeing a lot more of that happen now.
So you're taking a boring website in a particular industry, and we're not just like lipstick on a pig here, right? We're not just slapping something and making it pretty. You're actually turning it into something profitable. What are people missing in their websites that aren't profitable already?
Well, that's the thing we love teaching. You would be absolutely amazed, and if you're listening to this and you want to get into business, at just how many very unassuming websites can be potentially worth 6 or 7 figures. So we're seeing food blogs, mum blogs, travel blogs selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars into the millions. And so if you know what you're doing there, you can build these up. And we've been doing this for 15 years now. So our actual background is buying and selling bricks and mortar businesses here in Australia. So we're buying manufacturing or wholesale import businesses. And because probably like a lot of your listeners, we wanted financial independence, and we saw businesses being the way to do that. And I guess in a way, when I say we, my wife and I, we met at uni studying zoology, would you believe, Hernan? So we literally studied red and kangaroos. That's how we met. And we realized, well, that's a losing proposition if you want to get rich in life, because you're working for the government basically. And luckily my wife, Liz, she's from the country. So both of us grew up in a rural area, and both of us wanted financial independence and location independence, which I know are buzzwords these days. So this was 30 odd years ago. And we were lucky. We got help off family to buy a first business. We come from nothing. Like, no one in my family knew about business. But what that meant was we learned all the hard knocks that you get when you start out a business. We're in debt to the bank. We made every single mistake under the sun. We nearly went bankrupt multiple times because the biggest problem we made was buying that first business. The due diligence, we relied on a local accountant in a country town. His accountancy practice was next to the local hotel, a bar. So you can imagine where he did all his business. It was not good due diligence that he did for us, gave us the wrong advice, and it's our own fault. But the point is we realized within a week of owning that business, the thing was going bankrupt. And so we had to turn it around very quickly. And so that's been our journey ever since, is to get this due diligence thing right. And that's where you make your money, is buying at the best price.
I've talked to a number of entrepreneurs thanks to this show. Some of them at the very beginning of their entrepreneurial journey, and
Yep.
some with 8, 9 figure exits. It's
Yeah.
been a tremendous ride. But what I've noticed overall is a lot of times, and this is just it's with people who've been in business for a long time, people who are just starting out. They think they're getting customers. They think they're out there trying to
Yeah.
acquire new customers, but really, they're just kind of taking orders. They're hoping for the next referral, and that hope strategy
Yep.
doesn't seem to work out. What are you doing
No.
different in the lessons that you've learned from not doing your due diligence accordingly
Yeah.
to today, where all of a sudden you are almost turning that faucet of customers on? What's changed?
I think, well, going back to that very first business, what we realized was we knew nothing about business. And so we started reading books on it, and we had to do that within the first week. And we realized the quickest way to turn around a business, we ignored what accountants say. Accountants will tell you got to cut costs and all that sort of stuff. We went, nah, sales. We'll just do the sales. We need to get sales. We've got to hustle. And here in Australia, we don't use that term, but it's a very American term, which we absolutely love. We learned from American sales books, and literally we just went out and learned how to sell, and that turned that business around into a massive success where we were exporting to America. We were making spare parts for outdoor power equipment. We were exporting to Germany, America, and all around Australia. But it was sales. And so to answer your question, that to this day, that's what drives us with our online businesses. We tell it to everyone. I guess in a way, what reinforced it for us, that we started on our journey to learn about business. This was 30 years ago. Once we figured out how to turn around through sales, we started hanging out with very successful entrepreneurs who bought and sold businesses as well. And one of our private mentors, he said to us, on top of sales, always go for cash flow, no matter what you do. He wasn't big in, he said, why would you invest in real estate until you've got cash flow? And that was his example. And he would say to us, go for high cash flow businesses. And this guy was a multi-millionaire. And I think to this day, that's what we've done really well. And that's why we love online businesses. They are very high cash flow businesses compared to the old days of when we used to buy and sell bricks and mortar businesses like wholesale import or manufacturing businesses. As a young entrepreneur, that was very, very difficult to do. So coming back to like your question, I guess the two big lessons and the two big things that we say to people and what we learned was, well, first of all, learn how to do due diligence properly if you're buying a business. But sales is a transferable skill you can use in any endeavor, no matter what you're doing in life, and you can combine it with any business, and you should be successful with that. And then go for cash flow first. Or always, Liz and I didn't really do the real estate investing thing. We do shares, but for us, it's cash flow, high cash flow businesses. And I guess that's what we've done differently to everyone else out there.
Yeah, I teach 17-year-old high school students about a course called financial algebra, trying to get them squared away with some of the basic finance stuff.
Ooh,
And one of the people I
yeah.
like to bring up in the classroom is Robert Kiyosaki, and he always talks about if you spend your
My
life buying
favorite.
assets, you won't
Yep.
have a financial problem in your future. And the problem most people have is defining the difference between an asset and a liability. An asset puts money in your pocket, and a liability takes money out
Yep.
of your pocket. And when you talk about sales, that is one of the cures to almost every ailing business. Another sale, it gives you the cash flow that you need to make that next investment or to put food on the table or whatever it is that you need to do. So when you're looking at websites, when you're looking to buy an asset, what are the 3 steps that make sure in your due diligence that you're looking at an online asset that is profitable? And which ones do you think people trip up on the most?
Really good question. I think so. There's the basic due diligence that we would look at for an online business, which is it always revolves. I don't know how advanced your listeners are, but basically the two main things we look at is the profit. We've got to check that it's real, and then the traffic. How much visitors come to the website. We live and breathe by those metrics. And that's basically the first starting point for valuing the business. But to answer your question, what are the things that people trip up on? I think what we see with beginners is they hear Liz and I talking about how awesome these, online businesses are. Out of all the thousands of businesses that we've been involved in or helped do due diligence on, or, we worked in mergers and acquisitions, doing deals up to 20 mil. Online businesses are the best. So it's very tempting to just rush out and buy one. The thing that most people trip up on is they don't have the knowledge or the skill set to run them once they own them. And part of your due diligence should be when you're looking at, any business for that matter, but with online businesses, if you know what you're doing, when you're doing your due diligence, you should be looking at it and going, all right, when I buy this, okay, I'm going to be making $10,000 a month straight away. But do I have the skill set to run it? And more importantly, can I grow it? Can I secure it? Can I grow it more? What's the plan going forward? And I think that's one of the things, obviously, if anyone checks out our website, they'll see we teach total beginners this. And that's one of the things we're really passionate about, is making sure they don't make the same mistakes we made with due diligence. That's first step, but then making sure they've got the skill sets to know what to do to run it. And then another really good point that people don't, part of that is that I don't think beginners do enough research on the niche that they're getting into or the marketplace, making sure that there is good money there, there's good opportunities to improve it. So really it's just a research process around the growth of the future growth of the website.
Now, I know that when it comes to tech, there's so many. It's like a generational thing. I'm one of the older millennials, born in the early '80s, and so I've been blessed to be able to come from a world where technology wasn't really an issue or a thing. The microwave was cool, the TV was great with maybe some extra channels. To have everything on the palm of my hand, including AI's powerful tools. How does someone with no tech background start buying and renovating websites for income? Do they need some special knowledge? What's needed for them to get started?
Yeah, so that was our biggest tripping point, because we didn't grow up with computers. My wife and I grew up in a country we didn't even have TV where we grew up. So it was pretty tricky for us. And our biggest regret in business is we held off on buying and selling online business because we didn't have the tech skills. When we first started in the early 2000s, we had to hand code websites. And Liz, my wife, learned how to do that. I'm hopeless with coding. Fast forward to today, the tech skills, you still need them. That is probably the main initial hurdle. The good news is the main skill that you need, just cutting to the chase, is learn how to build a website. And it's getting easier with AI. So we build renovate most of our websites with WordPress, which is, anyone that online would know what WordPress is. Pretty straightforward. There's nothing complex to it. There's heaps of, we teach that to beginners. That's what we specialize in. But that's realistically the main tool. And now with AI is helping us do such a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of, even writing the copy when we renovate a website, tidying up websites. AI is also another very powerful tool that I think, even the last 2 months, it's changed dramatically. We can notice it a lot amongst us and our team, how much it's changed. I think in the next 12 months, it will do a lot of heavy lifting for us as well. So main skill set, if you're listening to this, is learn how to build a website. I think that goes hand in hand with the power of learning good sales skills. It's a skill set for the future. It's a huge one. In this digital day and age, it's not good enough to just be able to post on social media. I think you should also layer in, how does a website work? How do you build it? How do you move things around? How do you post stuff on it? And how does it fit? Like, how does it actually make money then as well? That's probably the next skill after that, figuring out, there's a bit of knowledge there to figure out how does all this fit together, and then the world's your oyster. You get out there and have fun.
Oh man, the tools are definitely getting so much easier. One of the coolest tools I love to talk about is an AI employee. So like my conversation with business owners right now is, do you answer your phone or does someone else answer your phone for you? And then the conversation can kind of go from there, because at the end of the day, people are picking up the phone, calling, especially if you're a local provider like a plumber or a contractor. And the issue is what happens when you can't answer the phone, and if that happens, you lose the customer. Same thing when
Yep.
you're building websites, right? You're getting this traffic. People are going to your website. What happens to the people that don't click? How are you helping those people out? There's so many cool things that AI and technology is helping us kind of grasp and get a hold of. Take me back a little bit though. What was your first major win? What was the site? What did you buy it for? How did you scale it? That first win, I think, is always one of those things that kind of will catapult you. Like, okay, yes, I can do this.
Okay. There's two that are really important that shaped what we do. When we first started, like I said, Liz figured out how to hand code websites, and she built a website in the crafting niche. And it failed. It took her over a year, and it was really disappointing for her. And luckily, though, she had a mentor who said, look, you've got it basically to break even. It's making a little bit of money. Just keep pushing on with it. And it's funny, within 6 months, she got that thing to making, from that point when that mentor gave her the mindset lesson, she got it to making $5,000 a month net. So she was selling like affiliate courses and things like that. And that's when she went, this is awesome. This is working. And we'll just started a family, and she wanted to work from home and everything, which we were already based at home, but it was just perfect for it. And Liz got really excited. Well, both of us were really excited, but Liz is very, she's a, ultra high achiever, type A type person, very impatient. And she said, I am not going through all that again. What are we doing, Matt? Why don't we just do what we've always done? Let's go and buy websites. I'm not building them. Let's just buy existing sites that are making money, just like we used to do with bricks and mortar businesses. I said, how are we going to do that? Back then, there was no brokers for websites. So she said, well, let's just do what we've always done. We'll do private approach. That's how we got our best bricks and mortar buyers as well. We'd go around industrial areas and approach factories and stuff and see if they want to sell. So it was really easy online because you're just there in your Jimmy Jams at home, your pajamas at home in the evening. You just look in the niches that you like. You go to their contact page, you send them an email and say, hey, would you be interested in selling your website? We're cash buyers. And these were all sites in America. So that meant that we could get into America straight away. And our first site that we bought, would you believe, we actually ended up buying off eBay, which I would not do now. But Liz, we got on, back then it was on Skype, and we spoke to the seller and we said, why are you selling this thing on eBay? And he goes, why are you buying on eBay? Where else do you sell websites? And it was really cool. He was a lovely guy, lovely American guy. We made really good friends with him, and we bought that site for $20,000. It was making $1,000 a month. This is net profit, not sales. This was in 2008. He just needed the cash. And within literally, this is what blew us away. Normally you don't get business success stories this quick, right? But remember, we've had 15 years run up to this, buying and selling bricks and mortar businesses, been through all the challenges, plus the first website build. On this one, within a week, we had the income up to $3,000 a month, literally while we sleep. And it just blew us away. And the way we did it, we noticed this was quite a big site, had a lot of traffic going to an internal page. It was just kind of hidden, and there was no monetization on there whatsoever. There's no ads, there's no affiliate offers. So we just put our best-selling affiliate offer onto that website, onto that page where all the traffic went. And it took about, at the time, you had to hand code it. It took about 4 hours. And I remember when we were doing it, I was saying to Liz, do you reckon it's really this easy? Is this going to work? And literally the next morning, there was an extra $1,000 in the affiliate bank account, and you get paid at the end of the month. And after that, what happened was it got even better. And this is what we teach now, is when you hit some big success with your website with affiliate, we got to know the affiliate manager. That put us on the radar of the affiliate manager. And then he cut us an even bigger deal, because all of a sudden we're sending them lots more traffic. So we got even more money for doing virtually nothing. And that's when we said, all right, we're all in on this. We're buying up more of those. And that's what we did. And it was easy because remember, 2008 was a big recession time. And so people wanted to sell websites for cash. And obviously with economic volatility that's out there these days, maybe that's a really smart strategy. I'm not giving financial advice here, but it may be a very smart strategy in the near future, let's say, or over the next 5 years, depending on what happens in the economy. But what we found was, and also when we're buying bricks and mortar business as well. Same thing. Whenever there's economic volatility, if you know what you're doing, you can get bargains. You really can find diamonds in the rough. It's a really good time to generate serious wealth.
All right, and I don't want to minimize, 14 years leading up to that example. I don't want to minimize the 1 year
Yeah.
Liz took to build this website that,
Yep.
didn't really do so well, but gave her a ton, I'm sure, of education in the space.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I don't want to belittle you shopping for websites on eBay, right? But there's a lot of red flags that kind of happen there, especially when you start looking at buying websites. Now there are brokers. Now there are different ways to go about it.
It's easier
There's
now.
still red flags that people should look out for. What are some of those red flags that you've learned now that you've been doing this for so
long? It's the first one, and the good news is when you know what to do, it's an easy one to check out, is the traffic. If there's big drops in traffic, which has happened a lot in the last year or two, if you're a beginner, you would need to be very, very careful of that. They're not so that is the monthly traffic to the website. Google Analytics tracks all that, and that should be part of your due diligence. That's probably the main one to be very aware of, because it means something's happened to the website and we need to negotiate on the price of what it's doing now, because the whole point of buying a business is for those monthly recurring revenues, particularly online businesses. That's where the value is. And if the traffic's dropped down significantly, that is a problem. It's also a huge opportunity if you're an experienced buyer or an intermediate buyer, because you can negotiate a fantastic price. The other thing is brand new websites that are too good to be true. Websites do take time, like a business, to build up. If you're buying a website under 6 months old and it's claiming it's making thousands of dollars a month, you'd need to be very, very careful of that. The other thing that we need to check is that it's how much money they're spending to generate the traffic. If they're spending it on advertising, what are the actual numbers that they're spending there? Again, reasonably easy to verify. And once you've looked at lots of deals, you do get a good feel for certain niches and what the metrics should be. And as you mentioned there as well, really important, if you're buying bigger sites these days, the brokers are awesome. They're really, not saying you don't do your own due diligence. You need to do your own due diligence. Brokers are there to make a deal, but that a lot of these deals now are vetted. And then the other thing is checking the profit. We need to make sure if the seller is claiming that it's making $1,000 a month, like that first site that we bought, we want to have literally a live looking of the bank accounts, which is actually, people are very open with websites, particularly anyone that's comfortable and sold a few websites. It's not a problem for them to open up their bank accounts where the money goes into. So either the ads account or the affiliate account, or their PayPal or Stripe, because normally they set up a separate account for that particular website. So it's very easy for them on Zoom or on a video format to show you a live walkthrough of the money coming into the bank account. And then you can just kind of check that it is with legitimate affiliate offers or however it's monetized. That's probably the main thing to check, obviously, is that the money's actually coming into the bank account.
That they're doing, and it's doing exactly what it said or what they're claiming that it's going to do. Yep. That's the most important part of the due diligence for sure. Matt, if people want to leverage your experience, they don't want to go through and make the same mistakes that you did, obviously different times, but same mistakes can happen nonetheless. Tell me a little bit about how they can reach out and find out more about you. And then probably the more important question, how long does it typically take for maybe one of your students to see some success?
Yep. So we have our e-business institute here in Australia where we train people. We have a lot of American clients now, a lot of US clients over the years, because we're quite active in the US. So you can go to ebusinessinstitute.com.au. And we've got a free masterclass. You can just check it out for yourself. And if people want to do a course of ours, there's information at the end of that about it. But that free masterclass goes through example websites that we've bought and that our clients have bought, how we do the due diligence, a bit more around the strategy, because we're about getting people to own a portfolio of websites, because that's also about safety in the market. And we're big fans of you mentioned a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That was a book that put us on a path many years ago to find these businesses that are financially and time leverage, where we're not the ones swapping time for money on them. And so we follow that sort of a process where we're trying to own multiple businesses that are leveraged, that don't take up our time. So we go through that in the masterclass, how we do that. And what was the other part of the question there?
And
how long does it take? Yeah, so that's a really interesting question, because we typically train total beginners, people who are transitioning from, I call it 5 to 9 work hours these days. No one works 9 to 5 anymore, but that means their journey takes longer. So typically, this is not a get rich quick thing. Whilst you can rush out and buy a website right now that makes you $10,000 a month, we actually don't recommend you do that, because you're not going to know how to run it. And it's a very dangerous thing to do. So we get people to start out very small on websites under $5,000. And typically it takes them a while to learn that, because they're transitioning out of a career. So it's anywhere from 12 months and beyond. Depending on, everyone learns at a different rate. If you've never been online before, there's more to learn and understand. So and a lot of people that come to us, they haven't owned businesses before. So there's also an entrepreneurial side that you need to learn, because these are fully fledged businesses. They can make you a lot of money, even little tiny sites. But to give you an example of just one of our most recent success stories, is one of our students has a passion site, started a travel blog. They just travel around Australia in a 4-wheel drive bus, so like a RV. And to give you an idea, from scratch, building that from scratch up to now, they're getting $10,000 corporate sponsorship deals. That's taken them about 5 years. But in the meantime, they've been buying and selling websites for instant income. So they own multiple websites. That was just a passion site that they built from scratch in the travel niche. So comparing that to being able to buy a website, once you know what you're doing, you could jump on and buy a website straight away that makes you that sort of money.
Financial freedom is one of those things that I think everybody is after, especially when you start going into this. I like to say the side hustle space, because a lot of times that's where they begin, right? It's just I need to be able to make my car payment, or pay off my student loan, or pay the rent a little bit better. How realistic is it in 2025 that the average person is able to do something like this? Because again, I'm gonna go back to the fear factor that's in their own head. Obviously, it's in our own head, but it's technology. It's scary. It's AI. I'm afraid of the Matrix or the Terminator. Like, how realistic is it for somebody that's an average person to find some financial freedom using your strategies?
See, I'm biased, because I live and breathe this. To me, it's really easy, but I've got it. If you're listening to this, please understand I'm very experienced. I've been doing it for 30 years, not just with online business, bricks and mortar. To me, it's a walk in the park, and online businesses compared to bricks and mortar are actually way more safer. The risk is way lower. How realistic is it for a total beginner to get in and do this? I think it is realistic if they take the time to learn how to do it first, and buy a small website first to learn the ropes on. So a website under $5,000 is not going to make you a multimillionaire when you buy that site, but it will certainly give you the skill sets for the future. And something you just said there, Hannon, which is really interesting, is the fear factor, AI, and all that sort of stuff. In my opinion, so we're teaching our kids this. We've got 2 young kids. And we're saying, seriously, you are crazy if you don't at least understand how this works. So I think everyone in society now, and obviously, again, I'm biased, but I don't think you can rely on a job anymore. You have no choice but to create a side hustle of some kind, and ideally, I think you should do it online. I think it's way easier to create a side hustle online than it is with traditional bricks and mortar businesses. There's massive risk. Can I give one big warning to everyone that we learned in business? If you're a beginner and you're wanting to start a side hustle, my strongest recommendation, this comes from someone, again, that's seen thousands of deals, been involved in mergers and acquisitions, owned and bought heaps of businesses myself, all my friends, this is all we do. I hang around high net worths and have done for the last 30 years who do this. I personally work for them or coach them. And the one thing I've noticed is, for beginners, I would not get into a side hustle that involves physical inventory. So like e-commerce or having physical inventory in a warehouse somewhere. I'm very biased against that because that's where we started and we nearly went bankrupt several times because of it. Because if the economy turns and you're stuck with a warehouse full of stock, you can't sell it in a recession and it gets real tricky. So as long as you avoid that, I think you don't have a choice in this day and age. You need alternative assets. Real estate, in my opinion, is a big, heavy debt as well. You can see I'm not a fan of debt. I go for the cash flow. So I think it's a really smart idea to start out small. Anyone listening to this is probably into the idea of starting a side hustle. You got to give it a crack of some kind. Find a side hustle of some kind that doesn't involve physical inventory and just learn on that small and safe and part-time in the evenings. And I think that's a big winning strategy. And in this day and age, you pretty much need to learn AI and digital skills anyway.
I 100% agree. You're spending all this money on college, and that is not a guarantee either. That's a huge debt you're picking up there as well. Look, ladies and gents, at the end of the day, education is vitally important. I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying the college route might not necessarily be the right route, but education is 100% important to get you anywhere you want to go. And the way you can shortcut your education is to hire a mentor who's already done it. That's the fastest way to shorten the learning curve. So make sure you guys check out ebusinessinstitute.com.au, ebusinessinstitute.com.au. Find out a little bit more about what Matt's into. Look, cash is not king. I know you've heard that before. Cash flow is king. Cash will eventually run out. Cash flow is that nice thing coming in your paycheck every single week, month. It's nice. It used to be checks in the mail, and now it's just deposits in your account. So, ladies and gentlemen, exactly, right? If you need a little help, make sure you guys check out what Matt's up to over there in the AU. So it's ebusinessinstitute.com.au. Matt, thank you very much for being on the program today. Ladies and gentlemen, catch you guys on the next one. Peace. And we're out.
It's over. Go home.
Is your business in need of marketing? Try starting a podcast, but not just any podcast. Podcast like a pro. We can show you how to take your business from being invisible to becoming a brand people trust. Go to www.businessbros.biz to get started.